it was very simple when I put it together. I really didn't believe that we had any more right to life than animals. And so I went vegetarian around 10 or 11. And it was like a bit on and off, because when I would go to treatment centers, they would see vegetarian as an eating disorder. They didn't, a lot of treatments, and I think that's completely wrong, but they will say, there's no such thing as good or bad foods, and it's like that's vegetarianism is something entirely different. But I continued with being vegetarian after recovery and everything, and then got quite into like the ethics of it. With just being in the spotlight, I would get approached by different charities, and I started to realize that the thing that really calls to me, the thing that I feel most passionate about, and where I'm actually speaking from the heart, is animal rights. And so I started talking more about that. And that's when people on social media started to say, well, why are you not vegan then? And, I was quite resistant to it at first, because I just thought that's a bit too extreme. That's really crazy. And my mum was very wary of it too. She was like, that does sound like a fancy eating disorder. So she was like, don't go there. But then I actually moved to LA for a few years when I was like 20, and it was just all around me, and in a really positive way. There were so many amazing restaurants and so many vegan activists who were doing it in a way that it didn't seem like they were depriving themselves, and it wasn't about sacrifice, and that just really inspired me. And then I read this book, Eating Animals, by Jonathan Safran Foer, and it was so traumatizing. It was it's brutal, that book. It's such like, it's all about the factory farms and inside of factory farms. And I just couldn't, when I finished that book, I really realized I am already vegan in my sensibilities. Ethically, I agree with everything. I'm just not putting it into practice. So I think from when I read that book, I knew I was meant to be vegan. But it just took a while to kind of untangle all my weird feelings around food and to do it in a positive way.
Did you have help with that, or did you navigate that yourself?
I did. I navigated it myself at first. I just kind of plunged in, but I did find it triggered some issues with food, because I was doing it out of like a should feeling, like, oh, I should be doing this, or out of guilt. So every time I would like struggle with cravings, I would be kind of force myself to think about the cows and the chicks being crushed up and things like that. And so meal times were becoming about just misery again, really. It was too emotional. And it wasn't until actually, so I'd been in touch with this guy, Eric Marcus, who runs vegan.com. And I'd been in touch with him on Twitter, and I was saying, look, I'm really struggling with this vegan thing. I don't know if I can do it. And then he told me about the crowding out method, which is, he was like, seeing veganism as what you don't eat is a meat eater's perspective. You need to think of it like a vegan and think about it abundantly and the things you're going to add into your diet and your lifestyle. And he said, before you cut anything out, just start adding in plant-based variations. And over time, you'll find that those animal products will fall out of your life. And that is exactly what happened. And I didn't feel like I was giving something up. It felt like a very willing choice, and it felt abundant. And I would honestly go so far as to say it really finally fully healed my weird relationship with food, because I had already recovered, but that was kind of the last thing that made me stop seeing it as sort of an enemy. Yeah.
And what was that? Was that because you had sort of there was a higher meaning to food?
Definitely. That's exactly what it was. That it wasn't about me, and it wasn't about calories or aesthetics. It was about, I'm doing this because this is the kind of person I want to be, and because I love animals, and this represents who I want to be. It was more just like, a piece of myself that had been missing. And yeah, I think by taking my focus off like nutritional content and what they'll do to my body, and putting it on the ethics, it just changed the narrative around food for me. And it was my mum actually who pointed it out a few years later when she came to visit me in LA, where she was like, wow, you're really quite normal around food now. You seem to have healed something. And I hadn't noticed. And it was like, yeah, I don't mind. I don't see it as good or bad. It's just either vegan or not vegan. And it's all just food. Yeah. And it's vegan or not vegan. And to me, animals are not food. So that's not even good or bad. It's just not food. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a powerful way to describe it, as a world of abundance. I know that
will probably help, that tip help many of our listeners. I know for me, I feel like every meal that I'm eating, I have so much variety and so much color and so much enjoyment and so much abundance. And when I started describing it to people like that, instead of, well, no, you can't have that. What about this? Well, no, that's an animal. Well, no, and it saying a bunch of no's instead of a lot of yeses, like just start bringing it in. And I think your taste buds will start to morph as well, right? And you start to crave what you eat. And then it's just a pretty quick journey then to just taking the rest of the stuff out.
Exactly. Yeah. And they completely do. I had that. So I didn't mention this, but I was actually a vegetarian who did not like vegetables. I ate really badly, actually. I ate a lot of breakfast cereal, a lot of pasta, bit of fruit, a lot of chocolate. And I didn't realize I was unhealthy, but I would get a lot of colds and flus. And then when I went vegan, my hair started to grow, which had never happened before because I bleached it when I was young, but my hair got healthy. I stopped getting all these infections and my skin cleared up. And it's just like, yeah, you don't realize until you do it. And I mean, yeah, I'm kind of going on, but it was all these things I didn't realize, and actually just going vegan seemed to fix a lot of things with my health.
Hey folks, okay. Back by very popular demand is our plant-powered plate fridge magnet, which you are going to receive for free if you leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. So here are the details. Just write your quick review. Does not need to be long, does not need to be a whole story. Just be honest and speak from the heart. Then take a quick screenshot of the review you wrote and email it to us at podcast@switchforgood.org. That's podcast@switchforgood.org. And include your mailing address so we can send you a power plate. We are doing this because the more reviews we garner, the higher we go in search results, which means more folks will learn about our podcast. So the power is in your hands. Leave us a review and zoom, your power plate arrives at your doorstep.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.